African activist has reportedly lodged a formal complaint against 3 South African media houses for failing to disclose sponsored trips to Israel. This action aligns with growing scrutiny of journalists and public figures accepting funded visits to Israel amid its ongoing war in Gaza, which critics argue compromises journalistic independence and aligns coverage with the Israeli state narratives. Hassen Lorgat joins us now to tell us a little bit more on this. Of course, we have reached out to the publications that have been mentioned here, at least one of them, Sunday Times. We have not received a response to try and balance this conversation. We've also reached out to SANEF. They couldn't be on this afternoon. So we'll tread very carefully here, not to get ourselves in trouble as well. Hassen, thank you very much for coming on, and thank you for giving us this opportunity. How rife is this practice of bribing, cajoling, or influencing journalists?
Tabo, thanks for having me. I mean, I think the issue you're talking about here, is on all our lips. We see someone giving out 60,000 in 200, I almost said dollar notes, 200 Rand notes. And we hear about people leasing out buildings they don't own. So clearly journalists are, once again, in the public discussion for the good and the bad and the ugly.
Yeah.
And so I think what this prompts to me, and I'll go into the detail, is that there's probably a need for another sexual type inquiry into media ethics. Let me say to you, I had an earlier discussion with, and Umakudu Sefara came to the discussion, and rightfully he points out that by the time I reached them, they'd already apologized. And I said to him, that is true. I actually, I'm not taking issue that they'd apologized. I'm taking issue that they apologized in a manner that was not prominent and appropriate.
Yeah.
They were hiding it away. It was still kind of showing the bias of their politics that they've shown. And that for me, I think the Sunday Times is one of the papers of record. The Citizen and Biz News, really, they should know better. This is journalism 101.
Yeah.
When you take money from an outside source to slant the news coverage, you are violating a cardinal principle of reporting fairly.
Yeah. Well,
but I did say...
Hassen would say there are many motivations at play here. I mean, at the same time, you and I could have a conversation around how journalism has been suffering because of no finances. So you have forms of finances that enable journalists, for example, to travel and to be able to continue to report. So where do you draw that line?
You think, Tabo, I mean, what you're saying is true. This is the pressure. This is the context, for why this happens. The press code sets a very low bar. It says, if you're taking money, do indicate where it comes from. It's such a low bar. Such a low bar. It's not a mega standard. It says, I took this from bad guys or something like that. And then, now you make up your mind as a reader.
Yeah.
Ideally, what I would have wanted, and I started off in my other interview, I said, the way the Palestinians are being butchered, there's a genocide there. And many journalists, as we speak now, are in Cape Town having a demonstration. Uri Ditlavi, Lance Witten, everyone, they are there. Trying to say, okay, guys, we've been through this game of outsiderism, time's over. It's too serious now. We don't demand that both-sidism when the Holocaust, the Nazi Holocaust on Jewish people was there. Or when a rapist rapes a woman in the street, we don't say, chap, why did you rape the woman? No, we try to understand it in a way. You don't get two sides in that way. What we need now is an end to the slaughter and to make sure that justice prevails.
So at the heart of your complaint, I mean, are you complaining about the failure of self-regulation, or are you complaining about the weakness of the sanctions?
I was saying that, Tabo, I play in this field, right? So I have to go with the rules. I said, I went by the rules and said, even by the rules, you have failed. I'm saying ideally as humans, we should be raising to a higher standard. But let's go to the rules. I've said, okay, guys, apologize in terms of the rules, right? Sunday Times, look at Facebook, look at X, all the places where these articles that you wrote about were included, apologize there as they were, but apologize upfront. And what I found that BizNews, non-member BizNews, actually was upfront. You open the article, it apologizes. I say to them that this is a non-member of the press council, doing it upfront. Then you have the Citizen, who has a dedicated section like The Guardian and others apologize. The Sunday Times one, I mean, they have an image of the Jewish victims of October 7th. And I was saying, guys, you really want to have a balance, right? You can at least in your apology show something better. But be that as it may, you know what I did? In fact, these guys actually, the novelty that I brought to this process was I saw the people that they interviewed. I said, okay, the Sunday Times interviewed these people, right? Dr. Sabri Saidam, Aviv Gur, Lieutenant General Dror, Lieutenant General Zahavi, Ruth Wasserman, the name Daniel Sedar. I said, okay, let me check which other papers interviewed them. So after that, I said the Sunday Times already admitted they were on a junket. They put it more neatly. They've omitted to tell their readers, okay? I tell the Citizen directly, Citizen, oh, sorry, we're wrong. I tell BizNews, they say, oh, we'll fix it up. The point is, they should not be told of this basic fundamental of journalism, that if you're getting a sponsorship, declare it. Yeah. But if the media is compromised, Thabo, and I know you're a political animal, when the media is compromised, during the same time in April, these papers become weak in keeping politicians to account, when the politicians also in April, 10 of them went on this junket, right? And even they, when they went on the junket, have a number of different reasons. Glynis Breitenbach says, for example, the sponsorship was worth 110,000 rand, I think. All the DA people said it was a gift. Others said they went for religious reasons. Others went for tourism. They all went there. And this is the point that I'm making to Makudu and him. I said, guys, this is not a mistake. The fact that you all were silent, you kept quiet, right? You didn't declare this, right? Clearly suggests to me that you had something to hide. You had something to hide. Because how can it, 3 different houses all of a sudden don't declare it? And then when you challenge them, they start declaring it. There's a silver lining to this, Thabo. It looks like the accountability that we put and demand of journalists is higher than Parliament.
Right.
The one in Parliament seemed to have just faded. Yeah. You don't even know what happened to it.
Yeah. What do you believe should done? I mean, what's the major proposition now? You're saying an inquiry to the effect of the one of Satchel. Is that the highest level that you would want to take this matter?
Thabo, when I started this issue, it was really kind of soft. I said, hey, guys, let's have a conversation, right? Let's have a conversation about it, right? Were you balanced? Msomi, all right, Stembiso, wrote an article in November last year, and he said, this is now a year afterwards. Hey, guys, isn't it time that we move off talking about Palestine? We've heard so much about it. There are other things that we need to discuss, right? And of course, subsequent to that, the killing has gone haywire. It looks like it's gone crazy. So the point is, it looks like there's been a slide, right, inside the Sunday Times as a newspaper of record to actually supporting the oppressed. In fact, the point I made to you earlier, that the media, self-regulated media, has always championed the idea that the fourth estate, we keep a check on power. In this particular case, Thabo, the government, as in the case here, government has got a lot of faults. I don't need an interpretation. You don't need to invite me to criticize government. I do that every day. The idea is the government is on the right side of history. These guys were lacking. And if you ask why the South African country, our people are saying, oh, shouldn't we be spending the money on this? It's because of our media narratives. And these guys have been neutralized. And they've got to, the more voices stand up, like many other newspapers of record, all of a sudden, New York Times and others come out quoting, getting barred of Israeli scholars saying, I know genocide because I'm a scholar of genocide. This is genocide. So they must join the bandwagon. And we will discuss later on whether they were opportunistic or not. Quite clearly, we need to stop lives, the killing of journalists, right? We need to make sure that we center Palestinians and find a just peace. These people have lived together in the past and they can do so. Right. We are in solidarity. And if we get the narrative wrong here, we're not helping anybody.
Hassen Lorgat, appreciate your time. Let's leave it there. Media activist there, Hassen Lorgat. Remind again, we did reach out to the publication in question, Sunday Times. They have not responded. I'm sure when they do respond, we'll get them on. SANEF as well couldn't be with us to put their side of the story forward.